Bloomberg reached out to the UN, and apparently the president had somebody in his contingent who was filming them as they went up the escalator. He may have triggered some safety mechanism that stopped the escalator in its tracks. So the UN very quick to distance itself from what happened there and saying
what else
likely
happened?
likely the White House team's
give
fault.
our audience across the nation, around the world, your summary of where we are in these important meetings.
Of course, we had the escalator fiasco, the teleprompter fiasco, but we had a speech that I think was markedly different from the first one that the president gave back in 2017. There he was laying out sort of his vision for America first, but not saying that the world had to come along with him. And I think that the tone yesterday was very different. He was indicating that the U.S. is going the right way here. Other companies should follow. Of course, he said all these other countries are going to hell. It was a...
did he actually say that?
He did say
Yes,
that.
I missed
it.
Yes,
Yep.
that's a direct quote. He did say
I couldn't
that.
concentrate. Red Sox, Blue Jays.
Well, there you
I just
go.
missed
And it was an hour-long speech, so he exceeded the time limit 4 times over. But it was a forceful speech. He seemed very comfortable among world leaders delivering this speech to them. And really, for me, what stood out was his focus on climate change, saying that it's a hoax. One of the greatest hoaxes perpetrated against mankind. Just taking a much firmer and stronger stance against that in a way that he hadn't before. The other stuff that he recounted, what he sees as accomplishments in the second term so far, we've kind of heard before, but that was a market change, I thought.
How is his speech being received by that audience at the United Nations?
I mean, there were some laughs at the jokes that he made, but I think that the punchlines were important. So, again, he made fun of the escalator, made fun of the teleprompter, but it kind of encapsulates in a metaphorical way his dissatisfaction with the organization. And I think that that's what's really critical here is the UN is celebrating its 80th birthday. It's at this really crucial crossroads in that the U.S. is now $3 billion overdue in its payments. The UN's having to reckon with the fact that it might have to work and exist without the kind of U.S. backing, financial and otherwise, that it's had in the past. And I sat down with Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General, on Friday. He's really having to make some difficult cuts when it comes to the size of his peacekeeping force, the UN budget. It really is a moment when the UN isn't having kind of an existential crisis. It's going to continue existing, of course, but the U.S. has played here, Paul and Tom, such a critical role here over its history that's likely to change now.
In the time that we have left, David, later today we will speak with Admiral Mullen.
Yes.
Your take on the Pentagon right now, what the Secretary of Defense is doing, limiting journalism. What is he? Give us an update there as we go to this important conversation.
So
with
on
the Admiral.
that point, we had the Pentagon saying to journalists in the Pentagon press corps that they can't report on anything that they haven't been authorized to report on. So they can't report on kind of confidential or secret information. Has to be they have to be given permission on what to report. And they have to sign a pledge to do that. And a lot of journalists have come out saying that they're not going to do that. But I think that kind of highlights the way that this Pentagon is operating under Secretary Pete Hegseth, calling it the Department of War now in addition to the Department of Defense, and really cracking down on sort of the way that it's operated in the past.